Hello, my name is Luke Butcher. I go to Denver School of the Arts, and today I will be performing The Power of Poetry. Thank you. Gavidra! My name's Egil Skallagrimson. I was a poet, barbarian, farmer, and to few, a sorcerer. More on that one later. But first, I'll tell you a bit about my life. I was born in Iceland to my mother Skallagrimr in the year 850 AB. By the age of 5, I was already a promising berserker, which, for those who don't know, were our greatest warriors, and a promising poet. By the age of 7, I had already taken my first life. The life of another child, close to my age. I can't quite remember how old. He had cheated me in a game we were playing. I got what was coming to him. But anyway, years after, I killed Barter of Atli in a dispute over an insult he'd thrown my way. I made a lifelong enemy, Erikr Bloodaxe, along with his wife. After that, Nidegr became the king of Norway. He banished me. But at least I got my last licking, because before I left, I killed Roggenwalder, the son of King Erikr and the Queen, and I cast a spell on him. I don't think he slept for a week. And then when I leave, he gets kicked out. But even then, the people of my old village couldn't keep him from a throne. They ran him away and became the rulers of Northumbria, soon before my ship crashed on the shores of Northumbria. You can imagine that when I found out who was king there, I had only one thought on my mind: revenge. So I found the house of my good friend Arenbjorn. We marched right down to the king's court, and well, I was forced to beg for forgiveness. But even then, that rascat sentenced me to death anyways. Thankfully, my friend convinced him to wait until morning. I owe that man my life. For that night, I was guided by my friend to write a poem praising my greatest enemy. Nonetheless, that amazing poem was one of the best I'd ever written. It was that poem that saved my life, for he granted me that life after he read that poem. After that, I would go on to fight in the Battle of Branbur, where unfortunately my brother, Hrorr, was killed, and King Ethelstan gave me 2 chests of silver as compensation. But in the end, I returned to Iceland to enjoy a more simple life of farming with my family. I went on to live to my 80s while writing poetry and farming before I was struck blind. I knew that I was at the end of my rope, so I had a servant help me bury the silver I was given by King Ethelstan, and after that I killed the servant, so he couldn't tell anyone where the silver was, so I could have one last act of violence in my life. My story was later told in the book Egil's Saga. But anyways, I would love to read to you one of my poems I wrote. This is one of my favorites. I wrote it after the death of my sons, titled Soronatek. I can hardly move my tongue or lift up the steelyard of song. Now there is little hope of Wilders theft, nor is it easy to draw out the hiding place of the mind. 'Tis not easy, because of my heavy sobbing, to let flow from the mind's place the joyful find to the kinsman of Frigg, which in times of yore was carried away from the lands of giants. Without fault has come to life at name of dwarf ship of Bragi, From wounds on a giant's neck, blood flows down in front of Nay's house doorway. Because my lineage has come to an end, like weather-beaten trees of the forest, it is not a glad man who carries a dead body of a relative down from the benches. Yet, I must of my mother's death and the fall of my father's first speak. I carry out the temple of words, the timber of praise, lived with words. Cruel to me was the gap which the sea broke in my father's fence of kinsmen. I see the empty open place stands the gap of my son, which the sea has caused me. Ran has given me rough treatment. I have too few dear friends. The sea broke the strings of my kin, a hard-spun strand of myself. You know, if for that offence I took revenge with the sword, the alesmith life would be over. If I could kill them, I would fight Aegir's wife and brother of the wind. But I thought I had not the strength to contend with my son's slayer, because in front of everyone's eyes it becomes known the lack of support of an old thane. The sea has deprived me of a great deal. It is painful to enumerate the death of kinsmen. Since my shield of the family died and went to the paths of joy, I know myself that in my son the stuff of a bad man would never have grown if this shield tree could have matured until he got a soldier's arms. Nearly always he compiled with his father's words, though everybody else objected and most supported my efforts. The loss of brothers often comes to me in the favorable wind of the enemy of the moon. I consider what to do when the battle rages. I rack my brain around it and I reflect about this. What other courageous person will support me against sudden danger? I am often in need of it. Against obstinate men I become wary, and friends depart. It is hard to find anyone trustworthy among all the people of Odin's gallows, because an evil traitor to his relations takes the rings for the killing of a brother. I often feel, when asking for money, the saying is also that no man gets compensation for a son unless he himself rears another son, one who is born instead in order to take place of a brother. I do not like the company of men, even though they are in agreement. My son, the son of my wife, has arrived at the home of Odin to pay a visit. But the chieftain of the fen of the beer mash weighs me down with a firm mind. I cannot hold the ground of the mask, knowledge's carriage, upright. Since cruel fever removed my son from the world, the one himself without blemish, who I know kept clear from slander. I still remember when the friend of the guitar raised up to the world of the gods the ash tree of my race which sprouted me and the family branch of my wife. I had good relations with the Lord of the Spear. I had confidence in them until the friend of carriages, Lord of Victory, broke off friendship with me. I do not sacrifice to the brother of Vili, the protector of the gods, because I am keen. I do not sacrifice to the brother of Vili. Nevertheless, Mimir's friend has, if I consider the better side of it, granted me recompense for my ills. The enemy of the wolf, the experienced fighter, gave me a faultless art and a mind which enabled me to make shifty cowards of oblivious enemies. Now I am in trouble. Sister of the enemy Tattoo stands on the headland. Nevertheless, I shall glad and unconcerned, and with good will await death. Oh, that really brings back the memories. But anyways, through my poetry, I was able to keep my people's culture alive for thousands of years. I was able to immortalize myself and my family. I was even able to cheat Hell herself, the goddess of death, with my poetry. Throughout my entire life, I've used runes to hex people, but poetry is the greatest magic of all. I fought wars, but still triumphed more. My poetry than any battle.